Imagine Earth millions and millions of years ago, a place where different species of animals, plants, and microorganisms were living. These creatures weren't the same ones that we see today. Over time, small changes happened in their behaviors and their bodies, often caused by random mutations in their genes. These mutations are like tiny, accidental changes in the instructions that tell living things how to work properly. Most of the time, these changes don't do all that much, but sometimes they make an organism a little better or worse at surviving in its environment. Now, if a mutation helped an organism survive, say it made it better at finding food or avoiding predators, it would have a higher likelihood of surviving to the age of having kids and passing on that helpful trait to the next generation. Over countless generations, these tiny changes added up, and the species evolved, making it better at surviving in its environment. Now, what would happen, say, if early humans lived in an environment that demanded that they like each other and work together to survive more? What kinds of mutations might help us avoid upsetting our tribe members or working together? Welcome to the channel, everybody, in case you're new. Today's video is all about why we care so much what other people think about us, and why we shouldn't as much as we do. By the end of this video, you'll know what role evolution has taken in our instincts and behaviors, and you'll know why it's so important to get past those instincts, or at least some of them, in a world that is all but overcome evolution. Let's get right into it. Why is it that we care so much what other people think about us? Imagine you're living thousands of years ago in a tribe of 50 to 150 people. You're surrounded by wild animals, the weather can be harsh, and food isn't all that easy to come by. The best way to survive in this tough world is to stick together. But to do that, everyone in the tribe has to sort of get along. If someone in the tribe is always causing trouble, like stealing food or hurting other people, that person might get kicked out. Being kicked out of the tribe would be very dangerous. Alone, you'd be much more likely to starve, get sick, or get attacked by predators. Humans that worked together tended to survive more, so evolution adapted us accordingly. A mutation that might help with working together and getting along is one that makes us feel pain when we're rejected by other people, or a desire to be liked by others, for example. Remember, being kicked out of the tribe meant almost certain death in ancient times. So, early humans who were really good at spotting if somebody was upset with them and were really aware of how people felt about them were more likely to change their behavior to avoid getting kicked out of the tribe. This fear of rejection is why we might feel a little anxious if we think somebody's mad at us, or we might go out of our way to make up with a friend after an argument. It's a deeply ingrained survival mechanism. Evolution is all about probability. What is most likely to survive? A mutation in your genes might cause a change in your traits or behaviors. If that trait increases your chances of surviving and having kids, then that trait is going to stick around a lot more than the trait that gets you killed as an infant. So why does this all matter anyway? Even though we live in a very different world today where getting kicked out of a social group doesn't mean you're just going to go die in the wilderness, our brains are still wired in a lot of the same ways as that of our ancient ancestors. That's why social rejection can feel so painful, and why the approval of others can feel so good. This desire for approval isn't just about making other people happy, it's about making sure you're safe and secure within your group. It's why even today, we feel great when we get a compliment from somebody or when we fit in with our friends. So in a nutshell, evolution built this desire for approval and this fear of rejection into us because for our ancient ancestors, these feelings helped them survive more in a world where working together and getting along was essential for them staying alive. Beyond evolution, there's also social conditioning. From a very young age, we're taught to seek validation. Remember those gold stars in school on your homework, or the applause you got at your school play, or people saying good job as a kid all the time if you threw a rock nice, or anything? Society rewards us for fitting in and meeting expectations, and so our need for approval gets reinforced. Studies have shown that the brain processes rejection in the same way that it processes physical pain. Yep, that's right. Getting ghosted activates the same part of your brain that gets activated when you stub your toe on that coffee table you keep meaning to move. So if you've ever felt like someone's disapproval was a punch to the gut, it's because in a way, it actually is. Now here's where things get a little more interesting and slightly more annoying. In the modern world, our social circles have expanded way beyond the 150 people from our tribe that our brains are wired to handle. Thanks to social media, we're now getting feedback or a lack of feedback from thousands or even millions of people. And guess what? That same need for approval is still here, just magnified 1,000 times. And it's not just anecdotal either. The more people use social media, the more likely they are to experience anxiety, particularly towards how they're perceived by others. So caring about what other people think is natural. Heck, it's practically baked into our DNA. But what happens when that caring goes a little overboard? When you're too concerned about what other people think, you'll start to second guess yourself. You'll overthink. You might miss out on opportunities or just straight up avoid things that might make you happy just because you're worried about what other people are going to think about you doing that. While it's no longer a matter of life and death, it is still a matter of a happier life versus a probably not so happy life. People who are overly concerned with others' opinions are way more likely to experience anxiety and depression these days. Their sense of self-worth gets tied up in external validation. In other words, they need other people to think they're awesome to feel awesome. How do we stop caring so much about what other people think? But don't worry, I've got some tips that'll help you care a little less or even maybe stop caring altogether. Understand that opinions are subjective. What one person loves, another person might hate. One thing my dad told me years ago that stuck with me to this day is you can't make everybody happy all the time. And you shouldn't be constantly sacrificing your own happiness to make everyone else happy. Think about it. If you're too busy worrying about what other people think and what their opinions are, you might start to forget your own opinions and thoughts. And remember, everyone sees the world through their own lens, shaped by their memories, experiences, biases, beliefs, all that stuff. So when somebody disapproves of something you do, it might have more to do with them than it does with you. Focus on your values. Ask yourself what's really important to you. What do you stand for? When you live in according to your inner values, it makes it so much easier to shrug off what other people think. It makes you more resilient against criticism because you know that ultimately what you're doing aligns with what's inside of you. This takes thinking about yourself and really being real. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. Practice self-compassion. We're all human, which means we all make mistakes. Sometimes small, and sometimes big, cringeworthy ones that make us stay up at night. The next time you're beating yourself up over what somebody else might think of a screw-up you did, just try talking to yourself like you would a good friend. Chances are you'd tell them to just let it go and move on. I heard Simon Sinek talk about this idea once. He said, if you were listening to or giving advice to a friend, it wouldn't be hard. You'd know what to say, you'd know how to listen to them, you'd know what to do to comfort them. But when it comes to ourselves, we just suck. Like, we just go so hard on ourselves the way we wouldn't on a friend when they're going through something. You gotta learn to be a friend to yourself, because sometimes people aren't gonna be there for you, and sometimes they'll be there for you, but not in the way that you want. So you have to learn to be there for yourself. Surround yourself with the right people. You can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. If you're constantly surrounded by judgmental or overly critical people, of course you're going to be worried about what they think. Find a tribe that lifts you up, not one that tears you down. The more supportive your inner circle is, the less you'll care about the opinions of people outside of it. And remember, you don't need a huge group, just a few solid connections of people who have your best interest at heart and really care about you for you. Now I can hear some of you saying, but what about situations where people's opinions actually matter? What about those ones? Good point. Let's talk about them. There are definitely times when what other people think can have real consequences, like at a job interview or if you're trying to uphold a professional reputation or just your regular life reputation. In these cases, it's not about completely ignoring what other people think, but just being strategic about it. The key is to be able to differentiate between what's actual feedback and what's just noise. For example, if your boss gives you constructive criticism, it might be worth paying attention to, especially if it could help you grow in your career. But if a random internet troll says that your haircut looked like it was done by a lawnmower, well, let's just say that their opinion shouldn't be too high on your list of concerns. Point is, it's all about context. Caring what people think isn't inherently bad. It's just when it becomes a bad habit or something that holds you back or stresses you out where it might be time to reevaluate. This video isn't about telling you that our evolutionary instincts are useless either. Quite the opposite. They were useful for thousands of years and continue to be today. Just like food and all other things, it's got to be done in moderation. We still need each other, and it would be extremely hard to survive on our own. Without the businesses and governments that give you access to jobs and money, without grocery stores and farmers that give you food, and most importantly, the people that gave you this device to watch this video. Without that, you'd be living like a caveman still. So yeah, of course we still need each other these days. That's the whole point. We all work together so that everyone can live sort of okay. It's just about being able to tell which opinions actually matter and which are just kind of, I don't need them. If there's one thing I want you to be able to take away from this, it's that you have the power to choose whose opinions matter and whose don't. You're not stuck caring about everybody's 2 cents, especially because lots of people's 2 cents is just nonsense. Remember, this is a journey. You're not going to wake up tomorrow morning and just suddenly not care what anyone thinks ever again. With a little practice and a little patience, you can start shifting that focus inward, where it belongs. If you like this video, go down there and hit that thumbs up button, and if you're new here, please subscribe. Make sure to check out this video right here, I believe, for a video about good pride versus bad pride. See you in the next one.